My parents started the church, New Life, in Little Village about 30 years ago. And the corner where you all probably stood on, where the big wooden cross is outside, is Lawndale. Growing up, I never walked down Lawndale because it was and still remains-ish the divide between the two main gangs in Little Village. My parents always said, don't walk down Lawndale. There's drive-bys, shootings, all that would happen. It would happen in real time while we're in youth group or even on like a Friday night church activity. But now we can welcome people from all over the world and other parts of the states to come and visit what God is doing, not because of a magic formula or because of some secret sauce. It is just staying and being present.
Are you longing for a space and community to imagine a healed future and strengthen your leadership? Auburn Theological Seminary invites you to the Heal the World Summit 2026, June 22nd through 26th at Zephyr Point in Lake Tahoe. If you're a religious, faith, or emerging leader passionate about building community, bridging divides, pursuing justice, and healing the world, this is for you. Join us for 5 days of faithful and inspiring programming. Tiered registration rates, scholarships, and more information can be found at auburnseminary.org.
This is Rosan Hernandez, and you're listening to We Got Us, stories of faith, justice, and collective hope. This season is an immersive journey that invites you to witness how neighbors and local leaders are answering a powerful question. How do we acknowledge brokenness and challenge oppression to cultivate and preserve communities so everyone can flourish? In communities that are often marginalized, people are still creating spaces of hope, of justice, and shalom. In these stories, our guests say, even when systems fail us, we rise together because we got us. In this episode, Ken Alvarado shares the story of Pan de Vida Fresh Market in Chicago's Little Village neighborhood. During the COVID-19 pandemic, social distancing went into effect. Schools closed and uncertainty grew. But young people in Little Village didn't let that stop them from stepping up to help feed their neighbors. This is a story about the courage, leadership, and hope that young people bring to our neighborhoods.
What if travel didn't just change your scenery, but transformed you? Join us for the Chicago Pilgrimage, March 19th through 22nd. Experience the city through a justice lens where place, policy, and power collide. Or journey deeper on the Palestine Pilgrimage, May 21st through 31st. Learn about peacemaking from faith leaders across Jerusalem, Bethlehem, and the West Bank. So go to chasingjustice.com to find out more. Come ready to be changed.
Ken Alvarado grew up in Chicago's Little Village neighborhood. Today, he serves as the Director of Community Engagement and Strategic Partnerships at New Life Centers, a community organization connected to New Life Church, the same church that his parents helped start 3 decades ago. One of the programs that eventually grew out of that community is a food distribution ministry called Pan de Vida. Today, it serves thousands of families across Chicago's southwest side. But the way it began might surprise you. It didn't start as a program or a strategic plan. It began with neighbors simply paying attention to the needs around them.
So that's why I say there's a lot of ways that this started, but it all came together to become what it is now. So Pan de Vida, there's a group that would go to Home Depot. These are all church people, all Spanish-speaking church, first generation neighborhood people from Little Village. A few of them were just intentional about going to Home Depot and picking up day laborers and just feeding them. It was just People saying, man, these people are looking for a way to provide for their families. And how can we honor that? That's it. So there was this super dope banquet called Banquete de los Reyes, where they would bring all these day laborers and would just host them at a king's banquet. The main goal was for them to feel the love of Christ. There was another side of a mother and a daughter, Selena and Claudia, that would go around on their block handing out leftover food from their pantry to feed the people in our neighborhood that didn't have enough to reach the end of the week. More people started getting involved, getting excited, finding, again, a super practical way to just care. There was no strategic plan. It was just obedience, and being attentive to detail, right? So through those things and kind of two groups of people serving and loving very intentionally, they formed this small food giveaway in the basement of the church. And I think at its peak, it got up between to 50 and 80 people once a week. And it was this, if you knew about it, you went to it. If you didn't, you'd walk by it. You didn't even know. Then one year, a miracle happened that somebody gave this broken down van so they can deliver the food. So this janky, you know, cargo van became a huge blessing to just serve more people. There was no funding. This was all just people giving food to this small ministry. Fast forward in 18 years now, the pandemic strikes.
Mysterious pneumonia outbreak in Wuhan, China.
A new type of coronavirus.
The number of affected countries has tripled.
The World Health Organization has just declared that this is a pandemic.
With over 30 million Americans unemployed and desperate for help, tonight on Capitol Hill, last-ditch talks over a relief bill went nowhere.
2 million students will not be going back to the classroom for the 2019-2020 school year. The governor said to let students return to schools would open up a nearly limitless potential opportunity for COVID-19 infection.
Little Village is infected with COVID-19. It is the highest infection rate outside of the Bronx, New York, in the city and in the country. And there was no stimulus checks to those people because they didn't have the requirement during that time, but they all were essential workers and had to go to work and pack in the factories all over Chicago Southwest side and stock grocery stores. Then that created this intergenerational spread of COVID, where in our church alone, one person died a week for 3 months straight. And this is not a big church. This is a small church. That little pantry was on pause. Somehow the Greater Chicago Food Depository heard about us and started dropping off pallets in front of our church. And this was like, what are you doing? This is not something we do. This is, there's like a mountain range of beans and rice bags and corn and all this stuff. And we're like, what's happening? This is during now COVID. You had to wear a mask and, that crazy season we were in. And our non-for-profit is adjusting, and our church is adjusting, and the youth of our not-for-profit in church stepped up and they said, hey, school is doing its own thing. Remember that asynchronous and synchronous crazy stuff? Well, they just started coming and started handing out food to people very organically. They chose to serve. We had gang involved youth come and say, hey, let me take it to the other side of the neighborhood. And it was like this huge revival of kids that just started taking over in the worst season of their life, of our world, during that time, and said, hey, it's on us. We got us, right? We're going to do this, and we're handing out food.
In the middle of so much uncertainty, what started as a few volunteers handing out food soon turned into a movement led by youth who believed their community deserved care, dignity, and hope. Here's what Diana and Alex, two young volunteers, said about their involvement. Oh, and Diana Franco, who you'll hear from in a second, had actually lost her job due to the pandemic. She started out as a volunteer during COVID, and she is now employed as one of the coordinators at Pan de Vida.
We want to make ourselves better and our community better because this is where we were born.
Yeah, the responses we get from people are amazing. They really need it. They appreciate it. And so we just give back daily.
We had a system that was changing every day. It's raining today, okay, we're gonna move these things to over here. It's snowing today, okay, we need to shovel, go early in the morning and shovel and see how the system's going to run now.
So 7 days a week, every day, they were handing out food, all these young people, and then some of us started jumping in too, right? This just became a movement. In 2 years, they gave out 2.7 million people food all over the southwest side and a couple north side locations where we did pop-ups. The kids led the way. I was terrified. I'm like, yo, what is this thing? I'm not trying to die. And not to mention the murder of George Floyd and the violence that we saw all over the country in Little Village and North Lawndale saw a lot of violence right on our border. And during that time, young people stood up and stood in the gap. And that was wonderful. It was an example of resilience. It was an example of courage. And I think we have the responsibility of honoring that with saying, this is how you're active with faith. This is how, show us more. So it was an incredible season and it's still going.
So what began as a small food pantry and transformed into crisis response during COVID soon became much bigger. With support from partners and the community, New Life Centers eventually purchased a store across the street from the church and offices and began transforming it into a permanent space. In 2022, that space became Pan de Vida Fresh Market, a free grocery-style market where thousands of families can access food with dignity and connection in Chicago's southwest side.
During the pandemic, since it was no contact, clients weren't allowed to choose what they were able to take. They took the whole box and they just had to take it. Moving forward into the food pantry, we decided that clients were going to choose their items. Now it's still a grocery store, but a free grocery store. And on our second floor, it's a learning center.
Here's a reflection from Matt DeMario, the executive director of New Life Centers.
The beauty of Pan de Vida is that we did this together. This wasn't New Life only. It was dozens of partners, hundreds of neighbors, youth from our community who came together in a time of crisis and built something beautiful.
The story about drive-by shootings that Ken shared at the beginning of this episode took place at the same intersection of Lawndale and 27th, where New Life Church, New Life Centers, and Pan de Vida now stand. That place is now known as a resource and support for the community, but that transformation didn't happen overnight. It took 30 years of neighbors showing up for one another and refusing to give up on their community. Today, Ken sees signs of that change in ways that might seem small to outsiders, but that mean everything to those who live there.
Now, we can welcome people from all over the world and other parts of the states to come and visit what God is doing, not because of a magic formula or because of some secret sauce. It is just staying and being present and seeing it change. So guess what? My 3-year-old, she runs down Lawndale with no worry in the world, and I'm super grateful. Those little things, most people won't know that. I mean, some of us that live right there on that border, we all kind of had that understanding. But now to see the changes, even if they're small, and even if they've taken 30 years, those are wins. It's kingdom wins, right? You're pushing back the darkness. And these are little spaces where we could do that. So that's exciting for me. That gives me that edge to say, I can be engaged with my community. I could find a team and run with them to help lead in positive ways. Not because I have all the answers, but the solutions are here. We all have them. We just need to find unison.
Ken often reminds people that solutions don't come from one leader or one organization. They grow from being present, from stepping in and taking responsibility for one another. During the pandemic, young people did exactly that. They showed up with courage, with energy, and prophetic imagination to help lead their community through a crisis. And for Ken, the leadership of young people and the resilience of children are powerful forces that fuel him with hope to continue in justice work.
Our neighborhood has been targeted by ICE pretty heavily recently, and there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of worry, just doing everyday things, going to the corner store to get a bag of chips, to go to school, to go to work. These are normal life things that typically most people wouldn't think too much about. I've been super sad to see the pain and the worry, that feeling of a knot in your stomach or your shoulders tight. I hate that feeling, and I don't like to see that in our community or anywhere else for that matter. And I've seen resilience in children. A good marker of shalom is hearing children play.
Someone kicked that ball to me.
And that is really cool. So when I'm walking down the street and there's a park that's just bursting, I'm like, man, there's freedom there. There's joy. And I'm always reminded to stay as a kid, So how can you smile through the moments and enjoy life in the simple ways that you can? Chicago, a thing that we all have in common in the hoods are in the summertime, those fire hydrants open up. I don't know who does it. I don't do it. But people open it, and it becomes our local splash pad. It's our pool, right? So a lot of our houses don't have AC, or the pool's kind of janky. The Park District one, and so the fire hydrant is the watering hole. That's where we come and cool off, and that's that kid aspect. If I don't remain youthful, I will burn out.
The story of Pan de Vida reminds us that change often begins with ordinary people choosing to care for the place they call home. Transformation grows when these ordinary people of all ages choose to stay, to care for their neighbors, and to keep showing up, especially in hard times. In Little Village, young people helped lead the way during one of the most difficult moments our communities have faced. And their story reminds us that even through a worldwide pandemic, community is still one of our greatest sources of hope. Because in the end, we got us. Before we wrap up, we want to leave you with some practical hope and encouragement.
So our listeners are like millennials and Gen Z, justice-oriented people. Some of them are at the beginning of their journey and they might not know like how to get engaged, but some of them are like like they've been in it and they're tired right now. So are there any like practical things, like maybe a couple of practical things, like advice that you could give them?
I'll speak to each group. I'll say, youngins, sweep the floors, wash the dishes, surround yourself with experienced leaders and listen, feel uncomfortable, ask for opportunities, be humble while you wait. God sees it, and that's who we're ultimately serving. That's what it's all for, and that creates character. It creates appreciation, and it could take a long time. So fix your eyes on the beauty of whatever that work is now, handing out flyers, posting an important social media post, sitting with your grandparents and hearing their story of migration or of struggle, or of prosperity and beauty. Take notes, look at old pictures. That's so important to stay rooted and connected. And then my group, I would say, in leadership, I've learned you have to have friends that are outside of this. So my best friend, Jerry, in Florida, he's an artist. We talk, we laugh, we see each other once every few years. I can share my struggles. I cry with him on the phone. He gets me. He loves me. I need him, and I'm grateful for him. And Josh in Indiana, that my wife knows, she can call them when I'm going through it and be like, and she did. Ken's holding a lot. Can you check on him? They're not in the work. They're not in the hood with me. but they care for me. They love me and they love my family. Hobbies. I love comedy shows, so I try and go to comedy clubs as much as I can and laugh really hard and daydream about doing stand up one day. Um, I love soccer, so I try and go to soccer matches whenever they're here in Chicago. And then they also say the third part is if you work with your head, then do something with your hands. If you work with your hands, do something with your head. So if you're a plumber, a way to relax is to read a book or to write a story or something like that. I'm like learning how to play tennis. It's fun. And then the fire hydrant is my way to stay a kid. I do it to be a kid and to show my kids how to play, and I want to play too. So if I can't play in my neighborhood, if I can't find ways to just play and have fun, if I can't have friends that are out of this and care for me, or if I don't have hobbies that I try and practice, if I don't have deep and honest conversations where I could cry, then it's not real. It can't happen. So for my generation, tap into places where you can breathe. That's how I survive. It helps keep you young. It helps keeps you alive. This work is beautiful. There's beauty in pain, and we must find ways to stay connected to life and, more importantly, to God. And I find the Lord in all those things.
Any words of encouragement for our listeners?
Simon Sinek wrote a book called The Infinite Game, and it talks about every game has an end and an objective. And we, as practitioners of community development and leaders in our neighborhood, and leader as in you're leading people or you're leading yourself. So whatever category that is you're in, there is no end that we will see on everything that we're doing. But the point of that book and the point of what our job is to leave it better for the next group. So your work is not done in vain, especially if it's done unto the Lord. He sees it and is grateful for it. And then for the people that walk by and have no idea what you're doing or what your heart bleeds for, still love and serve them and know that there's people like me and you that are grateful for them because they're intentional and you're making the world a better place. And the world can be just your block. And that is so important. Have so much grace on others, but more than anything on yourself too. Sometimes we beat ourselves up too much. So stick with it. It's worth it. The Lord became flesh and moved into the neighborhood, and now you're in the neighborhood. So keep on the work that he started because you're doing godly work.
Friends, our next episode is our season finale. If you've been enjoying this season, please let us know by leaving a review on Apple Podcast or wherever you listen. Let us know what you liked about a specific episode, about the season, or tell us what you would like to hear more of. Okay, now here's what's coming up on the last episode of We Got Us: Stories of Faith, Justice, and Collective Hope.
So if you were to arrive on the Central Park Avenue train, you get off, and if you go north, it's all African American. And if you go south, it's all, for the last 40 years, it's been Mexican, and now it's just a lot more variety of people coming from Latin America living here. And so I think there are forces that do pin us against one another.
Those are some of the harder conversations that we've had to have, some that have ended up in shouting matches and disagreements, right? And others that have just been like conversations and dialogues. And so we are hoping that even as we continue this journey, that it deepens our relationship, not only as leaders, but as neighbors in our community. We have to be reminded that there are systems and structures that want us to pit ourselves against each other, but that's not God's way. God's way is for us to see where we're unified and to work together.
This podcast season was made possible by the Storytellers Collective, a program of Christians for Social Action. This episode was produced, content edited, and narrated by me, Roslyn Hernandez, with sound editing by Nassim Bolas. The theme song for this season is We Got Us. It was produced in collaboration with Common Hymnal and the Storytellers Collective. We want to give a special thanks to Ken Alvarado for sharing about his neighborhood of La Villita. Ken, thanks for your presence, your wisdom, and your childlikeness. To learn more about this episode, you can check out the show notes. If you haven't already, share, like, leave us a review, and subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. This episode is available on our YouTube channel, so please keep the conversation going on YouTube comments. You can find us at ChasingJustice_. That's Chasing Justice without any spaces, ChasingJustice_.